You've spent years feeling misread. People glance at your silence and rush to label it shy, distant, unsure, passive. They tell you to speak up, open up, be louder, be more visible, as if something essential is missing in you, as if the world only recognizes value when it makes noise. But what they never see is what's happening beneath the surface. You are not quiet because you have nothing to say. You are quiet because you are listening to patterns, to shifts in energy, to the truth hiding behind words. While others rush to fill every pause with their opinions, you sit inside the pause itself, and that space gives you clarity most people never reach. You've learned early that not every thought needs to be shared, not every emotion needs to be exposed, and not every reaction deserves oxygen. That kind of restraint doesn't come from fear, it comes from awareness, from knowing that power doesn't announce itself. It observes, chooses, and moves with intention. There's a reason people sometimes feel uneasy around you. Even when you haven't said a word, they can't read you, they can't predict you, they can't tell what you know. And in a world where everyone is constantly revealing themselves, that mystery feels threatening. This isn't a story about becoming louder. It's about understanding why your quiet presence carries weight, and why the person who speaks the least is often the one who understands the most. Part 1. Silence is not absence. It is control. You've probably noticed how uncomfortable silence makes people. The moment a room goes quiet, someone rushes to fill it. They talk faster, explain more than necessary, laugh too loudly, or overshare details no one asked for. Psychologically, this happens because silence forces people to confront themselves, and many aren't used to that. But you are. When you stay quiet, it isn't because you're unsure, it's because you are choosing not to leak your inner world. That choice is a form of control most people don't realize exists. Silence requires discipline. It means you can sit with your thoughts without needing immediate validation. It means you don't feel pressured to perform just to be seen. Think about how often words are used defensively. People speak to protect their ego, to avoid being misunderstood, to assert dominance, or to cover insecurity. Every unnecessary word gives away emotional information. When you don't rush to speak, you don't give that information away. Instead, you decide when your voice matters. This is why silence often shifts the power dynamic in a room. Others begin to wonder what you're thinking. They project their assumptions onto you. They fill the gaps with their own insecurities. Without realizing it, they start revealing themselves while you remain composed. You aren't disappearing, you're containing yourself. And containment is strength. The quietest person often holds the most control because they are not driven by impulse. They are not reacting, they are observing. And in psychology, the person who reacts less and observes more is usually the one who understands the situation most clearly. Silence isn't emptiness, it's intention. Part 2. Quiet people see what loud people miss. When you're not focused on being heard, your attention naturally shifts to noticing. While others are busy thinking about what they'll say next, you're watching how people say what they say. You notice pauses, changes in tone, nervous laughter, forced confidence. You pick up on energy before words catch up to it. This is one of the most misunderstood advantages of being quiet. Psychologically, attention is a limited resource. Most people spend it outwardly, projecting, explaining, performing. You spend it inwardly and observationally. That gives you access to information others simply don't register. You start to recognize patterns in behavior. You see who talks when they're insecure and who stays quiet when they're calculating. You notice who dominates conversations to feel important and who listens because they're assessing over time. This awareness sharpens your intuition. You don't just hear what people say, you understand why they're saying it. That's why people sometimes feel exposed around you, even without asking questions. You seem to know more than you should. Your silence creates a mirror. People fill it with their own assumptions, and in doing so, they reveal their inner state. You're not judging, you're perceiving, and perception is power. In psychology, the person who observes without immediately reacting gains context. Context leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to influence that doesn't need volume. You don't need to interrupt, dominate, or impress. You already understand the landscape. While loud people try to control the room with noise, you understand the room through awareness, and understanding always outlasts performance. That's why the quietest person often walks away with the deepest insight, because they were watching while everyone else was talking. Part 3. Emotional self-regulation is a hidden advantage. One of the greatest strengths you've developed without even realizing it is emotional control. Not suppression, control. There's a difference. Suppression pushes emotions down until they explode later. Control allows you to feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. Most people speak when emotion takes over. They react when they're hurt, angry, excited, or afraid. Words spill out as a way to release inner pressure. You don't do that. You pause. You feel the emotion fully, then decide what deserves expression and what doesn't. Psychologically, this is emotional self-regulation, and it's one of the strongest indicators of inner stability and long-term resilience. It means your behavior isn't dictated by the moment. You are not easy to provoke. You are not easy to manipulate. When tension rises, you stay grounded. When others escalate, you stay measured. And that calm presence changes the emotional temperature of any room. People don't always understand why, but they feel it. Your steadiness makes impulsive behavior around you feel exposed. You're not emotionally distant. You're emotionally disciplined. That discipline makes you unpredictable in the best way. People can't pull a reaction out of you. They can't bait you into revealing your weak spots. They can't control the narrative by controlling your emotions. In psychology, the person who can regulate themselves while others cannot automatically gains influence, not because they dominate, but because they remain centered when things become unstable. Your quiet isn't emptiness, it's composure, and composure is one of the rarest forms of strength. Part 4. Silence creates an uneven balance of power. Every interaction is an exchange, not just of words, but of information. Most people don't realize how much they reveal when they talk. Their fears slip out in jokes. Their insecurities hide inside explanations. Their intentions show up in the things they emphasize too much. You don't give that away easily. When you remain quiet, you gather information while offering very little in return. Psychologically, this creates what's called an uneven balance of power. The person who knows more, sees more, and reveals less holds the advantage even if they never assert it. While others are explaining themselves, you're learning who they are. You notice contradictions between what they say and how they behave. You sense when confidence is real and when it's rehearsed. Over time, this gives you a clearer picture of people than they realize you have. That's why silence can feel intimidating. People aren't used to being observed without being affirmed or challenged. When you don't react immediately, they begin to fill the space themselves. They talk more, they justify, they over, and in doing so, they expose even more. You're not trying to control the conversation, you're allowing it to reveal itself. In psychology, unpredictability creates caution. When people don't know what you're thinking, they become more careful around you. They watch their words, they question their assumptions, they slow down. Your silence doesn't push people away, it shifts the dynamic, and that shift gives you clarity, leverage, and choice, all without saying a word. Part 5. Independence makes you unpredictable. There's something deeply unsettling to people about someone who doesn't need them. Not in a cold way, but in a grounded, self-contained way. You're comfortable in your own space. You don't chase attention. You don't force connection just to avoid being alone. Psychologically, this signals independence, and independence breaks expectation. Most social behavior is driven by approval. People say what they think will be liked. They adjust themselves to fit the room. They fear being excluded, misunderstood, or ignored. You've stepped outside of that cycle. You don't shape yourself to be accepted. You decide where you belong. That's why your presence feels unpredictable. People can't leverage praise to control you or withdrawal to punish you. You're not playing the same emotional economy. You operate on your own internal standard. You choose connection, not dependency. This kind of autonomy often gets mislabeled as distance or aloofness, but in reality, it's emotional self-sufficiency. You know how to be alone without feeling abandoned. You know how to enjoy silence without feeling empty. That comfort with yourself makes you resilient. In psychology, those who don't rely on constant external validation are the hardest to influence. They listen carefully, decide slowly, and move intentionally. They don't rush to please, and they don't fear standing apart. Your independence doesn't isolate you, it stabilizes you. And stability is intimidating in a world built on need. Part 6. When you don't need approval, you become unshakable. At some point, something shifts inside you. You realize that being understood by everyone was never the goal. Being aligned with yourself was. And once that happens, approval loses its power over you. Most people shape their behavior around how they'll be perceived. They soften truths, exaggerate confidence, or stay quiet out of fear, all to protect an image. You've stepped away from that. You don't speak to be liked. You don't stay silent to be accepted. You act from clarity, not performance. Psychologically, this is where inner authority forms. When you no longer outsource your worth to the reactions of others, you become grounded in a way that can't be shaken by opinion. Criticism doesn't derail you. Praise doesn't inflate you. You remain centered. That balance is rare. People sense it immediately. They may not know why, but they feel that you're not easily moved. You don't chase validation, and you don't fear disapproval. That makes you difficult to manipulate, because manipulation depends on emotional hooks, and you've removed them. You still care. You're still human, but you're no longer dependent. Your quiet presence now carries conviction. When you do speak, your words land differently, because they're not filtered through the need to be approved. They come from alignment, not insecurity. This is why the quietest person often carries the most weight in the room, not because they demand attention, but because they don't need it. Conclusion: if you've ever wondered why your quiet nature feels heavier than words, now you understand why. You were never meant to compete in volume. You were never meant to perform your worth. You were never meant to explain yourself into existence. Your silence is not something to outgrow, it's something to understand. It holds awareness in a world addicted to reaction. It holds restraint in a culture of impulse. It holds independence in a system built on approval. You see before you speak. You feel before you react. You choose before you move. And that choice changes everything. The truth is, power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sits quietly, watching, learning, waiting. Sometimes it speaks only when it matters. Sometimes it never needs to raise its voice at all. So if you are the quietest person in the room, don't rush to fill the silence. That silence is yours, and it's stronger than you've ever been told.